Hello everybody. We're working on our Digitize and Vectorize for our symbols that we created for Project 1. What I've done is I've used a thing called Photo Booth to take a picture of my bird symbol that I created, and it put it on the desktop. Now you can get a picture either by taking it with your cell phone or scanning it in, or by using Photo Booth if you have that kind of software on a Mac. Now, what I'm going to do with this image is I'm going to bring it into Illustrator. So I'm going to open Illustrator, and I'm going to create a new document. File, New, and what you want to do is you want to make this a 10-inch by 10-inch document. If you see that it's in points, change it from inches or from points to inches here. Okay, so this is it's an 8-inch by 8-inch. Already thinking about project 2. So 8-inch by 8-inch document. I'm going to hit OK. And now I have an 8-inch by 8-inch square in Adobe Illustrator. Now I'm working in Illustrator CS6. You may have CS5. They're fairly similar. They've changed colors of all the tools and things. Now, in order to place a document, such as my bird, into Illustrator, I'm going to go to File and Place. I go find the image, which for me, I put it on the desktop, and I hit Place. Now, knowing where you put images is extremely important. So here's the photograph of the bird. You can see it's too big for what's called the Artboard. Okay, it's going out into the pasteboard. The Artboard is the live area. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale this down, but I want to hold down the Shift key. If I don't hold down the Shift key, here's what happens. Oops, I just moved it. When you don't hold the Shift key down, it will put your imagery out of proportion. We don't want stretched graphics ever, unless you're dealing with an advertisement or something that talks about squeezing something. So I'm going to hit Command Z a couple times and get it back to the proportion. So when you're scaling objects, make sure you hold down Shift in Illustrator and then pull down on a corner to scale it. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get this image to fit within the 8-inch by 8-inch format. Okay, so here we go. Comfortably, I want to get it to fit in there. Now that fits in there pretty comfortably. I'm not worried too much about this extra white space. Now this is a pretty simple process as far as the vectorization of a symbol. As long as you've drawn something well and clean, this shouldn't be a big problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this thing called Image Trace. If you're in CS5 or earlier, it's called Live Trace. As long as you have the image selected with the Selection tool, which is the black arrow tool, you can then use Image Trace. If it's deselected, Image Trace is not at the top in this control panel. Okay, so click on the image, make sure it's selected, and then you see Image Trace. Now I'm not going to click on Image Trace because it will probably give me a result I don't care for. Just to the right of Image Trace are tracing presets. Now sometimes these work well and sometimes they don't. I sometimes will use custom. Right now it's grayed out, but I do know that this will work out for black and white logo. So this default setting is set so that when you bring in an image that's black and white, that's drawn well like this symbol, it will automatically convert it to a vector document. Right now it's rasterized, or right now it's a vectorized, but prior to doing this it was raster graphics, meaning it had pixels. Now it does not. Now you want to clean this image up and get rid of all this extra stuff that's out here. So what you want to do now is you want to expand the image. Expanding the image breaks things down into objects in Illustrator. Now if you've not used Illustrator before, it's pretty complex software, but I'll try to keep this as simple as possible. Now the black arrow tool over here, called the Selection tool, it's great for moving objects. So if I click on something and move it, it's all going to move around. Now I'm going to hit Command Z and bring it back. It's not so great for individual objects or individual points on objects. If I click here, nothing happens. The whole thing keeps moving. If you want to deal with individual objects and their anchor points, what you want to do is deal with the Direct Selection tool. Also, some people call it the white arrow tool. In this case, it looks gray. Now I'm going to click and hold down on my mouse and drag. Clicking, holding down on the mouse and dragging, and you will see that the white arrow tool or the direct selection tool is grabbing only what I've come in contact with. So I came in contact with this black blob, all the little white shapes, and the big box that's around there. Now I'm going to hit the delete key. I'm going to get rid of all of that because I don't need it. Now the same thing will go for this stuff out here. So I click and drag. Anything that it comes in contact with, it will select, and I hit delete. Now if I clicked on just one object and moved it with a direct selection tool, you will see that it only grabs one shape. Now I'm going to hit Command Z, so it'll go back. You don't want to do that unless you're modifying parts of the bird, but this is pretty well intact. If you want to move the whole bird, deselect that area, grab the black arrow tool, and then click on it, and the whole bird will move. Now the reason why this is this is grouped up because when it does a live trace, it kind of puts things in groups. Now let's say I had something that was a little less than desirable as far as my line goes. You can modify line. Now I'm looking for some not very good or not clean line, like right in here. These come to a point that's kind of awkward, so I'm going to clean these things up. To clean these up, I will use the white arrow tool or direct selection tool, and I can click on nodes, and you'll see that on certain nodes or anchor points, you have what's called a handle, a directional handle. If I click and slowly drag, what I see is when I pull the directional handle, there's a little blue curve that's next to it. I want to pay attention to that because that's going to be the contour of my shape. Don't pay attention to the straight line of this handle. There we go. That looks much better than it did before. It looked like this before. Now it looks like this. I'm going to go in and I'm going to grab the next one and I'm going to click and drag and watching again the blue curve, not the line. I'm looking to see where it's falling. I'm thinking that looks good. And then I grab the other handle, pull, and sometimes the little black arrow tool gets in the way, so just kind of move it. And then I'm going to go up here and I'm going to zoom out a little bit, so I'm going to hit Command, or if you're on a PC it's Control minus, but Command minus on a Mac. And I might clean that up, make it come to a little bit more of a point. So I'm going to zoom into that area. Sometimes it's best to zoom in and out because you don't understand how things relate to each other if you're really zoomed in. So make it a habit to zoom in and out. Now this is the zoom tool here. You can also hit Z, and this is a direct selection tool. So when you see me zoom, let me hit Command or Control minus again, Command minus on Mac. When I do zoom, I click on the zoom tool and I click and drag over the area I want. This saves a lot of time because what happens if you're new to this, you'll sit there and click and click and click and click and click, and it just takes forever to get to where you want to go. So it's usually just best to get the zoom tool, click and drag over the area you want to zoom into, and it will do that. So I always say that if you're doing that click 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 stuff, it's almost like you're new to using a computer. It's not something you want to do. It takes too much time. Now to zoom out, on a Mac I'll hit Command 0, not O. O means open. Command 0, or on a PC it'd be Control 0. So you want to clean up any sort of weird things on your work or bumpy weird stuff. Now this one's an unusual one. I really just want to get rid of that anchor point. I like this point. It curves nicely, and I think it'll go great with or marry into that point. But this point is not necessary. So I can go to the pen tool. Now the pen tool actually is the thing that if we were drawing this without live trace, we would draw with a pen tool. But the pen tool, if you hold down, you'll see there's a little arrow out to the side. This is called a rip off. So I'm ripping off or opening up all the tool options. And you'll see there's a plus pen tool, minus pen tool. This is a add anchor point tool and delete anchor point tool. So I'm going to click on delete anchor point and I'm going to delete that. Now it may not give me the results I want. So again, I need to grab the direct selection tool, click on nodes, grab their handles, and pull them until the area looks good. Now this area needs cleaned up as well. Again, I may not need as many anchor points, so I'm grabbing the minus anchor point tool. Then I'm getting the direct selection tool and I'm pulling this handle so that it's got a nice smooth bend to it. And this guy may not be necessary either, so I'm going to get rid of him. There we go. That's much smoother. And if I wanted to, I could pull this handle just to smooth that out a little bit. Now again, I'm going to hit Command minus a few times, or I can hit Command 0 if I want to go to the full view. But what I like to do is I like to kind of zoom around and see what kind of things I need to clean up. See, if this logo were blown up fairly large, which oftentimes they are if you're dealing with large format graphics, I would not want this to come to an abrupt end. So what I want to do is clean all this stuff up. So please clean up your things. Don't just live trace them and then expect the results to be great, because they're not. They always need modified. The computer's just a tool, but it can't differentiate between what's great and what's not great. So you can, though. So you go in and clean it up. So this is how we're working with these symbols as far as the digitize and vectorize. It's more than that. It's digitize, vectorize, and clean it up. So I'm just going through and cleaning some stuff up. Now this is a weird little non-smooth sort of looking area. See how it kind of, I'm going to hold down the space bar so I can get my hand tool. Kind of gives that little wonky business there. What I want to do there is investigate what's happening, and it's all about these handles. That handle is pushed up into the black, so I'm going to pull it out a little bit, and now it looks much smoother. So these little handles are just wonderful.